Art is the cure for HIV. In fact, I can solve HIV in Alberta in 6 months by dancing, drawing, and telling stories. Hello, my name is Morenike Olaosebikan, and last year I went on a journey, an eye-opening, mind-shaping, worldview-changing, ground-beneath-you-shifting journey. This phase of my journey started at the beginning of the year, in which I experienced what can only be described as an existential crisis. I started to think, really think, about why I'm here, who I am, my free will, my identity, and purpose. These thoughts had me learning about social innovation, of course, through the Rouge Foundation. Now, Rouge started 11 years ago. In many ways, we could say this journey really started back then. A bunch of friends and I organized a fashion, art, and music event to raise money for HIV relief in Africa. Over time, it evolved into a foundation that advocates for positive social change for those impacted by HIV through the arts. Our theory was that if you put healthcare professionals in a room with artists and people impacted by HIV, you could create art that tells stories. These pieces of art could engage the general public to reduce stigma. Reducing stigma was key to reducing the spread of HIV. So, by using the arts to reduce stigma, we would reduce the impact and spread of HIV. Voila! In the course of my learning about social innovation and complex problems, I learned that, as with nature, many things go through a cycle. We call it the adaptive cycle. In Alberta, I think we are in a phase of exploration in many ways. There are many dynamics on many levels that affect HIV, with many drivers. Very soon, through this journey of learning, the Rouge Foundation's theory of change was challenged really hard. The more I observed, the more I became aware of the multiple layers in this complex problem. I went through this process observing, co-creating, pausing, and coming out with ideas. I grew more convinced that HIV is a symptom of stigma, discrimination, and inequality, in the same way that stigma, discrimination, and inequality are symptoms of HIV. I set out to answer a question: how might we effect social change for communities that are disproportionately affected by HIV and AIDS in Alberta due to the various drivers of HIV risk and vulnerability, including inequality and discrimination? As I hinted earlier, at some point, I got it in my head that we could create a strategic solution for HIV in Alberta in 6 months. Because, well, there was a timeline from a provincial steering committee that said we could. So, of course it would happen, right? It could happen, right? I even created an airtight practicum proposal completely based on this timeline. By some mysterious stroke of luck and randomness, I had been appointed to the Alberta Health Services Steering Committee for the creation of a strategic plan for sexually transmitted and bloodborne infections, right after the first module of my social innovation course. In the committee, I soon learned very important lessons about the strengths and the limitations in collaboration and partnership. Nothing worked according to the initial timeline. There's an invisible problem in Alberta which I make more visible. Here is the problem landscape in Alberta for Africans. Here are all the gaps and key opportunities I've come to observe. And here is the current solution landscape in Alberta for Africans. In this journey, I started with thinking that we could fix HIV by painting, drawing, and dancing, and so we would end stigma. I believed if we could fix the stigma problem, we could fix the HIV problem. When that didn't work, I thought, well, we could fix it by sitting in this AHS committee and by fixing policy and governance. That doesn't really seem to be working according to schedule. So now I'm just listening. Now I have no theory of change, really. I'm investigating and I'm listening. The Ribbon Rouge Foundation launched a listening campaign to bring voices of Africans to policymakers, to explore the needs of people of African descent in Alberta, and to be friends first, to build capacity within these communities to advocate for themselves, for ourselves. Eventually, we want to explore how people of African descent in Alberta might have our social determinants of health met in order to get to zero. We, the Ribbon Rouge Foundation, will have several dinners, events, one-on-one meetings, reaching out to diverse African communities in Alberta, building trust, building relationships, and listening. We believe listening in itself is a powerful act, and we want to be a platform for these voices. We think that in hearing these stories, we can come closer to understanding. We would love for you to be a part of this campaign and add your perspective to the story. I am lonely. I am really lonely. There is no friend. There is no family. There is no one. Nobody. When I was growing up, I loved my mom so much. She was the only person that I wanted to make happy. And because I knew my dad wouldn't be there for me, it was my mom who always was there for me. But now my mom doesn't want to talk to me. It's been over a year since the last time that I talked to her. Her reaction the other night when I tried talking to her by phone was the same reaction then. I thought maybe this time she would try to change, try to understand. I want to tell her that I don't want to be gay. I didn't choose to be gay. I didn't choose to have HIV. I didn't choose any of this. If I had a choice, if I had the power, I would just erase everything. I love my mom. She's always had good intentions. She's not harsh or a mean mother. I love her.